I'm Dr. Anthony Collada. I'm a board certified psychiatrist. I'm here to talk to you about pornography. And as a psychiatrist, I typically will refer to the DSM Diagnostic Manual to treating and evaluating people. But unfortunately, there's not really something about pornography in there. So I looked at some of the research that is available through the web, and I found that over 80% of adult men have used pornography or search pornography. 40 to 70% have used it within the past year, and about 50% of men aged 25 or under use it weekly. And the primary reasons it seems like why they use pornography is one, it's easily accessible, it's affordable, and it's anonymous. So the demographics here vary, but again, it's more commonly men than women. And these males are typically introverted, maybe they have narcissistic tendencies, they may be neurotic or overthink things, and they may have challenges with social intimacy. People who use porn were typically also had lower educational levels, there's more dysfunction within their family. Maybe they felt victimized and so they use it as a way to cope. Maybe it was from peer pressure. Also, they found that people who are porn users tend to want it to be popular. And so for parents dealing with kids going through this, they find that parents who control or monitor their kids' internet use help protect them from being addicted or using porn too much. What does pornography do to the brain? Well, there's 3 brain circuits that stop pornography effects. It's the reward-seeking behavior, the novelty or new experience seeking those behaviors, and then also there's the addiction pathway. So it's thought that the pornography, just like other addictions, activate the reward pathway, which starts down deep in the brain in the nucleus accumbens, which secretes the molecule called dopamine, and this dopamine will then secrete or go to the frontal parts of the brain, which deal with more like planning, thinking, organizing. But what happens is when someone watches pornography or does an addictive substance, it really activates this reward pathway or this sort of addiction pathway, that emotional response. And so what happens is someone's not going to be able to use the front part of their brain as well. They're not going to be able to think as well or plan or organize their day or tasks because it's more that emotional or instinctual drives, which is the reward center, is more going to take over. Basically, they've done like imaging studies to see about people brains who are habitual pornography users, and they have decreased thickness of the front part of their brains. And this is pretty standard, not just for pornography, but for sex, for food, for drugs. It really affects people's brains, thinking powers. It's going to affect their ability to regulate their emotions. And so I would like to tie this into what Christ says in his Gospels and in the New Testament about possibility of pornography. And he doesn't really address it directly, but there's several parts where he says there's indirect lessons. For example, in the Gospel of St. Matthew, he says, whoever looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. St. John in his epistle warns that the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is of the world, not of God. St. Paul in the Corinthians warns to flee from sexual immorality as it's a sin that destroys one's own body. And we see it does destroy the mind, it does destroy the brain. It makes the front part of the brain not as thick, it makes it smaller. And in his epistle to the Galatians, St. Paul says it's part of the flesh. He suggests adultery, fornication, lewdness, lust, those things are part of the flesh, and it's just going to limit someone's ability to have self-control in their life. It's going to limit one's ability to control their impulses, and it's likely going to affect a lot of other aspects in their life. So those are just some thoughts about pornography. I'm sure there's many other ways you can look at this. Let me know what you think in the comments, if I missed anything, what to talk more about, and hopefully this was helpful.